So it was a lot of Cowboys, Washington. Eagles weren't great then either, but you would see the cross-pollination in the NFC East. And I mention that because the rivalry between Philadelphia and Washington, well, back in the 70s, one thing I remember, for as bad as the fields were, and it seems like everyone played on the green cement back in those days because the Cardinals were in that division. They had green cement at Anheuser-Busch Stadium.
Right.
The Eagles had green cement at Veterans Stadium. Washington had grass. That made it different. The Cowboys had that the green cement, but that special glow of the old Texas Stadium. But I don't remember any railings collapsing at stadiums when those teams played back in the 70s. And the collapse of the railing at FedEx Field on Sunday continues to resonate because, Chris, on Tuesday, Jalen Hurts, the guy who narrowly avoided torn ACL, broken leg, broken ankle. When you see the one angle of him walking into the tunnel, you realize how close it was and how he had to use his pro athlete instincts to do a quick. Watch how he does the quick step here. It's instinct. Quick step. Look at that. That's pro athlete. Normal person doesn't do the quick step. He does the quick step and he avoids what could have been a very serious injury for him. He sent a letter yesterday to the NFL and to the Washington football team, making sure that this situation is properly addressed and that it doesn't happen again, really there or anywhere else. Let's hear a little bit from Jalen Hurts explaining on Tuesday why he did what he did in an effort to rectify the situation in Washington and hope that it doesn't happen anywhere else.
Well, it was actually sent to league officials as well, and it's, I tried to handle the situation with a lot of poise and show compassion for the people that fell down, really. But I know it could have been so much worse, and it kind of didn't hit me till after the fact, having some time to reflect on it and think about it. I just wanted to see what could be done to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's all I really care about. That's a very tragic incident, and it could have been much worse, much worse. But I just don't want it to happen again.
You know, his reaction is the normal human reaction. As it's happening, you're trying to process it, Chris. You're trying to, it happens so fast. You really don't get the chance to appreciate how serious it could have been and what the outcome could have been for him or for the people who tumbled head first down to the field level. Necks could have been broken, lives could have been lost, and good for Jalen Hurts to stand up and say something about it and make sure that look, I'm sure the powers that be are taking this very seriously, but they prefer that they be allowed to do so quietly. I'm glad that Jalen Hurts is continuing to shine a light on this because it needs to be fully appreciated for the debacle that it was. And it's just the latest thing from the Washington football team, the cesspool that begins with owner Dan Snyder that needs to be properly scrutinized and dealt with up to and including getting rid of the owner, as I said yesterday. And I feel no differently than I felt yesterday. I just didn't catch a wild hair yesterday. They need to get rid of Daniel Snyder. The shield. If you're concerned about the integrity of the game and the way that people view the sport of professional football, they need to get rid of Daniel Snyder. Whatever it takes, they need to get rid of him.
Well, I mean, I can understand you having that thought. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't think it's crazy. I mean, again, I know you're out for the.
Do you agree with me?
I don't know if I agree with you totally. I don't know. I guess really.
You really do want to be a GM.
Well, no, I wasn't even thinking of going down this road. I haven't put thought into this part of it. I wasn't even planning on going down this road. But he's certainly hurting the shield right now. To your point, that's what I'll say. No matter what. And I am a little surprised with some of the events that have happened, and it seems like the NFL has tried to hide some of the issues from that franchise and what that guy has caused for the NFL, which I don't understand. It's not a good look for the NFL. I'll say that at the end of the day. And I don't think you're like off base or crazy to have that thought. All right. I'm not going to go there whether I agree with you or not. But the Jalen Hurts thing. All right. That's pretty damn cool. So it's hard not to root for Jalen Hurts with the way he handles himself on the field and off the field. He's got special leadership skills, and I know his dad was a football coach, and he's obviously been raised the right way. It's just one. I'll tell you, the first thing I was shocked by more than anything was just the fact that a quarterback would go out of their way this time of the year to even write a letter or do anything like that. I've tried to put myself in his shoes, and I'd be like, man, I'm too overwhelmed with trying to get ready for the game, and we got playoffs coming up and all of these other things going through my mind. Man, I feel bad for those guys and that fell down and the Philadelphia fans, and I'll send them some autographed jerseys and helmets or whatever else. But I don't know if I would have gone out of my way to write a letter to the league and make sure they follow up and do their due diligence on this. That's special leadership. That really is. And I give him a lot of credit. I think that's going to win over a lot of fans in Philadelphia. It really will. I mean, he's already won a lot over with his play, but actions like this are only going to get more of them on his side.
And it was required. I mean, let's consider, of all the things that have happened in Washington under the ownership of Daniel Snyder, and he's lumped into this because somebody said, well, why do you care? He doesn't own the stadium. Yes, he does. Yeah. He does own the stadium.
Yeah.
Most owners don't also own the stadium. Daniel Snyder, when he bought the team in 1999, he bought the stadium. He owns the stadium. It is his place. The idea that you would have a safety hazard in a stadium that endangers paying customers and players, whether from your team or the other team or anybody who happens to be in that tunnel with the proper credentials is at risk if that railing goes. That's a serious situation. And I look at it this way, Chris. If the worst case scenario had happened for Jalen Hurts and he's out for the year with a serious leg injury.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about hundreds of pounds of force swinging onto that railing. That was a huge impact.
Huge.
That would have happened onto his leg.
No
or
doubt.
If any of those people had been seriously injured, we would be calling openly and aggressively for the league to expel Daniel Snyder. Well, you know what? He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt that comes from the luck that shined on him in that moment. All those people got lucky. He got lucky.
Yeah.
He's responsible ultimately for what happened. That's why I think he should be gone. Because if they hadn't gotten so lucky because of the negligence that flows back to the fact that he's the owner of that building, of those seats, of that railing, he should suffer the same consequence he would have suffered if there had been a serious outcome. That's why I feel so strongly about it. He shouldn't get a pass because the hand of God intervened to keep someone from getting killed.
Yeah, I hear you there, Mike. I wasn't. I took a weak stance there when you asked me before if I agreed with you. I get where you're coming from. I think it's totally justifiable to have those thoughts. There's no doubt. And listen, he's got a lot of free passes here. He's certainly not helping the Shield. That's for sure. He's not helping the NFL game right now with some of the actions and the way that organization has been run and some of the things that have come to light here over the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is now at this point. But, it goes back a little bit to the greed conversation that we have here in this country. I mean, as I mentioned yesterday, I think that was the first thing I really realized about the video when I saw it for the first time. I think that was, Sunday evening. It's just I have been in that stadium a few times. I know that tunnel. That tunnel used to not be that tight. But, we're in the age of we got to squeeze every last dollar out of everything and everybody. And we got to screw them over, and we got to screw them over to the maximum extent while we spend the minimum on doing these type of things. And that's where I get pissed off as an ex-player, as a fan, as somebody that loves the NFL. That really freaking bothers me. And I hear what you're saying.
You're getting there.
I know.
You're getting there.
I know. Well, I understand your thought.
I'll get you there by 9 o'clock.
I guess I feel guilty. I feel guilty saying anybody should get fired or get.
Yes.
I know. But I shouldn't.
What a shame. What a shame if he were forced to sell the team.
I know. You're right.
What a shame that would be.
Look at you.
I'll have a bake sale for him.
Look at you.
I don't want
You're like the devil on my shoulder, just to getting me going.
I don't want you having a bake sale for him because I know the secret ingredients of your baked goods. I'll bake the brownies. For the bake sale.
Okay,
although
fine.
yours may sell better.
Mine will sell more. That's what I was going to say. We'll be able to charge a premium for mine.
Well, what will happen is they'll eat one of yours, and then they'll want to eat a lot of mine.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We'll have two
Could
tables.
work.
All right. Okay. But you know, in all seriousness, it was very fortuitous for everyone involved that it wasn't a ridiculously serious and grave outcome. And can you imagine the conversations that would have been had on our show and elsewhere, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and beyond, if someone had gotten killed in that, or if Jalen Hurts had simply not done that quick little hop step to the right and avoid having his left leg get hit by that railing with hundreds of pounds of pressure swinging it into the ground. And good for Jalen Hurts to continue to shine a light on it. And let's hope the NFL doesn't just dangle bright, shiny objects in our faces and hope this goes away because it's bad for PR. Sometimes things that are bad for PR are bad for PR for a reason. And maybe what you need to do is deal with the underlying problem. And why have these issues one after another that are bad for PR, that are all emanating from the same person, when you can just get rid of him? At some point, that's what hit me yesterday. What are you gaining from keeping him around? What are you gaining from getting rid of him? I mean, it's a no-brainer at this point. And Chris, something Shireen Williams mentioned last night, and I wrote about this at PFT. If I'm FedEx at some point, I'm saying get my company name the hell off that stadium.
I understand that thought too. I get it. I mean, listen, this goes back to some of the conversations we had when, we were talking about the Washington franchise and, the lawsuits and the emails and all of that, to where we were questioning. I don't understand why the NFL is going to such great lengths, to help this guy out. Now, I know we got to the final, thought was because of precedence, right? They didn't want to, open up Pandora's box for all these owners, or we'd have issues everywhere. I understand that, but yes, the way the organization's been run over the last few years, it's not been a good look for the NFL, and it's certainly turned some people off. There's no doubt about that, and there's been people mistreated, let alone those fans that fell down. We know there's a lot of ex-employees and other people that have worked for that organization that, don't exactly talk about it as a great experience there, working there. And, Mike, you make a lot of good points, and I don't understand why the NFL, continues to, kind of placate, I guess, to a degree to Daniel Snyder and sweep things under the rug.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I get emails from a lot of people saying, don't let the Washington football team workplace investigation, don't let that die, keep talking about it. The problem is if there aren't developments, if there isn't news, it's hard to wedge it into the conversation. Well, here's an opportunity to wedge it into the conversation. And you mentioned that we had gotten to the point that they weren't trying to protect Daniel Snyder by brushing all of this under the rug, by hiding all of this information. They're trying to avoid other owners from being in a similar situation where they can be accused of things that they either did or maybe they didn't do, but somebody's embellishing because there's a lot of power that you now hold over these oligarchs that are used to being the ones who hold the power. But my thinking evolved based upon an op-ed that was published by the Washington Post a couple of weeks ago. A former employee pointed out that Brian LaFemina, who was the COO of the Washington football team for about 8 months a couple of years ago, who came from 8 years, I believe, with the league office, that the claim was made in this op-ed that he was one of the few that tried to fix the situation and he got fired because of it. Now, if that's true, Chris, it dawned on me that what's really going on here, and I had mentioned, possibly may have mentioned this before, but I think it bears underscoring it right now since we're talking about issues and dysfunction with the Washington football team. I think that the league is doing everything it can to keep the details secret because, and this is my hunch, Brian LaFemina, when he realized how bad things were in that workplace, he told people at the league office about it, and they didn't do anything about it.
Right. I hear you there. Yeah.
And there may be some of those emails out there that would look innocuous on the surface because they don't have coarse language in there like the stuff that got John Gruden fired de facto by the Raiders. But you could construct a case that the NFL knew and didn't act. And that may be why the the NFL is working so hard and willing to advance such facially implausible, and that's the kindest way possible I can say, BS reasons for not making that information available and not being transparent. It's part of Roger Goodell earning the $65 million.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you get to yuck it up with Peyton and Eli, and sometimes you have to stand up there and answer some tough questions and provide with a straight face ridiculously implausible answers. It's part of what you're getting paid for.
Yeah.
That's a tough day on the job, but you power through it. And you get your $65 million, and that's why you're there. One of the reasons why you're there. So look,
I think you're right. We don't know, but the way you connect dots, and I know you said it at the time. I hear you with what you're saying there. I certainly can get behind that, and I think there is some logic to that they realized how dysfunctional it was. And they kind of just...
And they didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything. Right. That makes sense to why you would want to hide things now and certainly kind of get everybody just to gloss over it and move on because they don't want to be, held accountable for knowing and not doing anything like you're talking about.
We saw some of the Jeff Pash, Bruce Allen emails. Boy,
yeah.
I wonder if there's some emails where Pash is saying, hey, this La Femina guy's, but he's saying stuff's going on. You better make sure you get things, straightened out. Who knows? They don't want us to know. I've said this for months. They are going to these ridiculous lengths to hide the evidence because they are hiding something big. And hopefully, let's bring it back to Jalen Hurts and what happened on Sunday. Hopefully, folks in Congress who have been pursuing this information will be emboldened by what happened on Sunday, and they will feel it's even more justifiable to keep pushing and pushing and pushing because of the fact that there is an entire tar pit of dysfunction in Washington tracing to the top of the organization that needs to be rectified. And they have something that they can use to try to pursue information that could maybe, just maybe, get the NFL to get to the point where they realize their interests are best served by moving on from Daniel Snyder.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.